The day of shame, Commander David Torres stood on the observation deck of the Unity space station, his eyes fixed on the massive fleet that had just emerged from the edge of the solar system. After decades of sending signals into the void, humanity had finally received an answer. But as he watched the hundreds of crystalline ships approaching Earth, each one larger than anything humans had ever constructed, a cold feeling settled in his stomach. The ships of the Zephyron Empire gleamed like diamonds against the darkness of space. They moved in perfect formation, their hulls reflecting the light of the sun in dazzling patterns. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Earth's defense satellites had counted over 800 vessels, each one radiating energy signatures that dwarfed humanity's most powerful reactors. Commander Torres, the alien delegation is requesting permission to dock. The voice of Captain Rebecca Stone came through his earpiece. She sounded tense, and he could not blame her. This was the moment that would define humanity's future among the stars. Grant them permission. Torres replied, straightening his uniform. He had been chosen to represent Earth's military forces at this historic meeting. Alongside him would be Director Chun of the Global Council, Professor Ahmad Nasser, representing Earth's scientific community, and Ambassador Maria Santos, speaking for the diplomatic corps. Together, they would welcome humanity's first alien visitors. The docking bay had been prepared with meticulous care. Flags from every nation hung from the walls. A full honor guard stood at attention in their dress uniforms. Musicians were ready to play a specially composed piece, celebrating this moment of first contact. Every detail had been planned to show Earth at its best. The airlock opened with a hiss of equalizing pressure. Torres felt his breath catch as the Zephyron emerged. They were tall, standing nearly 9 feet in height, with skin that shimmered like polished obsidian. Their bodies were humanoid, but elongated, with 3-fingered hands and faces that seemed carved from living stone. Each wore robes of flowing silver material that moved as if alive. But it was their eyes that struck Torres most. 6 glowing orbs arranged in 2 rows across their foreheads, burning with an inner light that seemed to look through him rather than at him. At the front walked Emperor Crithax, distinguished by the crown of pure light that hovered above his head, and the staff of crystal he carried that pulsed with each step. He stopped at the threshold of the docking bay and surveyed the assembled humans with an expression that Torres could only describe as profound disappointment. Director Chun stepped forward and bowed respectfully. Great Emperor Crithax, on behalf of all humanity, we welcome you to Earth. We have waited for this moment for generations. We hope this meeting marks the beginning of a long and prosperous friendship between our peoples. The Emperor did not return the bow. Instead, he walked forward slowly, his 6 eyes scanning the honor guard, the flags, the musicians, all the carefully prepared displays. He reached out one long finger and touched a flag, the fabric seeming almost crude under his examination. Friendship, the Emperor said, his voice emerging from a translator device that made it sound like wind howling through canyons. You speak of friendship as if you understand what that word means in the context of civilized species. Professor Nasser stepped forward, unable to contain his excitement despite the Emperor's strange tone. Your Majesty, we have prepared presentations about humanity's achievements, our science, our culture, our exploration of space. We have so much to share and so much to learn from you. Emperor Crithax turned his 6 eyes toward the professor, and Torres saw something in that gaze that made his blood run cold. It was not anger or hostility. It was pity. Very well, the Emperor said, gesturing to his attendants. Show me what you believe are achievements. For the next 4 hours, humanity presented everything they were proud of. Professor Nasser explained quantum computing, fusion reactors, and the Mars colonies. Ambassador Santos shared the history of human cooperation, the formation of the Global Council, and the end of major wars. Director Chun showed footage of Earth's cities, its biodiversity, and its artistic heritage. They displayed everything from ancient pyramids to space elevators, from classical music to genetic medicine. Emperor Krithax watched it all in silence. His attendants took notes on devices that seemed to write in pure light. Occasionally, the Emperor would nod, but his expression never changed from that same look of gentle disappointment. When the presentations finally ended, Director Chun smiled hopefully. "Your Majesty, we hope this demonstrates that humanity is ready to join the galactic community. We may be new to space, but we have much to offer." The Emperor's mouth opened slightly, revealing teeth like polished crystals. Torres realized he was smiling, though there was no warmth in it. "Director Chun," the Emperor said slowly, as if speaking to a child, "I will now share something with you." He gestured, and one of his attendants produced a small cube that glowed with soft blue light. "This is a learning device we give to Zephron infants when they reach their second year. It contains the fundamental principles of physics, chemistry, biology, and mathematics." He held the cube toward Director Chun, who took it with trembling hands. "Your quantum computing," the Emperor continued, "is something we invented 47,000 years ago. Your fusion reactors are based on principles we mastered 62,000 years ago. Your genetic medicine is, I must admit, quite clever for a species at your stage. But we solved those problems 38,000 years ago. The silence in the docking bay was absolute." Torres felt as if the floor had dropped away beneath him. "But surely," Professor Nasser said, his voice cracking, "surely our rapid development counts for something. We reached space in only 10,000 years of civilization." "Indeed," the Emperor said, and his tone was genuinely complimentary, which somehow made it worse. "That is impressive for such a young species. Truly remarkable. The Zephron took 15,000 years to reach our first moon. You have progressed quickly." He paused, letting that sink in. "But you must understand, you are children. Talented children, yes, but children nonetheless. The Zephron Empire has stood for 120,000 of your years. We have guided 33 species from primitive states to civilization. We have seen the rise and fall of countless worlds. You are not the youngest species we have encountered, but you are close." Ambassador Santos found her voice. "What exactly are you saying, Your Majesty?" "I am saying that humanity is not ready to stand as equals among the civilized species of the galaxy." The Emperor's 6 eyes swept across all the assembled humans. "But do not despair. The Zephron Empire extends to you an offer of guidance. You will become a protectorate species under our benevolent rule. We will teach you, protect you, and guide you toward true civilization." "Protect us from what?" Torres heard himself ask, his military training finally breaking through his shock. "From yourselves, Commander Torres," the Emperor said, turning his full attention to him for the first time. "We have studied your history, your wars, your genocides, your environmental destruction. You nearly destroyed yourselves with nuclear weapons barely 70 years ago. You are dangerous children playing with fire, and we cannot allow that danger to spread to the stars. And if we refuse this offer?" Director Chun asked quietly. The Emperor's expression hardened for the first time. "Then you will be classified as a hostile primitive species. The Zephron Empire has maintained peace in this galaxy for 120,000 years. We did not achieve that by allowing chaos to flourish. You will accept our guidance willingly, or you will accept it by force. There is no third option." Torres saw Director Chun's hands ball into fists. He saw Professor Nasser's face flush with humiliation. He saw Ambassador Santos fighting back tears. Around the docking bay, every human face showed the same mixture of rage, shame, and helplessness. "How long?" Director Chun finally asked. "How long would this protectorate status last?" "Typically between 5 and 10,000 years, the Emperor said casually, as if discussing the weather. "Though given your enthusiasm and quick learning, perhaps only 3,000 for humanity. It depends on your progress and obedience. 3,000 years." The number hung in the air like a death sentence. "Asterisk, Your Majesty," Director Chan said. Her voice steady despite the tremor Torres knew she must be feeling. "Humanity accepts your generous offer of guidance." The words seemed to physically pain her to speak. Torres felt his jaw clench so hard his teeth hurt. Around him, he saw similar reactions from every human present. "Excellent," Emperor Krethax said, nodding approvingly. "You have made the wise choice. Tomorrow, we will begin the integration process. Zephyron advisors will be assigned to all your worlds and stations. We will establish resource-sharing schedules and educational programs. You will learn much under our guidance." He turned to leave, then paused. "Oh, one more thing. It is customary for protectorate species to show proper respect to the Zephyron. When in the presence of Zephyron officials, you will kneel. Like this." He gestured, and one of his attendants demonstrated, dropping to both knees with head bowed low. Asterisk. The silence that followed was suffocating. Torres felt every eye in the room turn toward the human leaders. His entire body rebelled against the idea, every instinct screaming at him to refuse. Director Chun was the first to kneel. Her movement was stiff, mechanical, but she did it. One by one, every human in the docking bay followed. Torres knelt last, his fists pressed against the cold floor, his head bowed in submission. But as he knelt there, listening to the Emperor's footsteps fade away, Torres made a silent promise to himself. This humiliation would not stand. Humanity had not climbed from caves to stars by accepting defeat. They had survived ice ages, plagues, world wars, and disasters that would have destroyed lesser species. They had split the atom, cured diseases, and touched the surface of other worlds. The Zephyron thought humanity was young and naive. They thought 3,000 years of submission was acceptable. They thought they could grind humanity under their heel and expect gratitude. They were about to learn that Earth's children had not forgotten how to fight Dot as the Zephyron delegation left the station. Torres caught Director Chun's eye. She gave him the smallest nod. Professor Nasser's expression had shifted from despair to cold calculation. Even Ambassador Santis's shoulders were set with quiet determination rather than defeat. The Zephyron had won this day. They had humiliated humanity before the galaxy. They had reduced Earth's proudest achievements to children's toys. But they had also made a critical mistake. They had assumed that because humanity was young, they would stay submissive forever. They had forgotten that young species still remembered how to adapt, how to evolve, how to fight for survival. Torres rose from his knees and returned to the observation window. He watched the Zephyron fleet spreading out across Earth's orbit, positioning themselves like guards over a prison. 3,000 years, the Emperor had said. 3,000 years of kneeling. Captain Stone approached him quietly. "Commander, what do we do now?" Torres looked at her, then at the other humans gathering around them, their faces grim but determined. "Now we kneel. We smile. We accept their teachings and their guidance." His voice dropped to barely a whisper. "And we prepare, because one day that Emperor is going to regret he ever humiliated Earth." The others nodded in agreement. The age of submission had begun. But it would not last 3,000 years. It would not last even a fraction of that time. The Zephyron Empire had just made humanity an offer they could not refuse. But they had also just made the worst enemy they could imagine. They had united every human under one burning purpose: to prove them wrong, to rise above them, and to make them pay for this day of shame. Of that, Commander David Torres was absolutely certain. Asterisk the silent revolution. 8 years had passed since the day of shame. And Commander David Torres no longer wore a military uniform. The Zephyron had disbanded Earth's armed forces within the first month of occupation, declaring that primitive species had no need for weapons of war. Now he worked as a maintenance supervisor at the New Geneva spaceport, a job the Zephyron considered appropriately humble for a former military commander. But Torres had learned that being underestimated was humanity's greatest weapon. The spaceport bustled with activity as Zephyron cargo vessels loaded resources from Earth, rare minerals, technological components, even water, all being shipped off-world to fuel the vast Zephyron empire. The aliens had been efficient in their exploitation, though they called it resource sharing for the greater good. Torres watched a Zephyron overseer directing human workers with casual arrogance, never imagining that the maintenance supervisor, observing from the shadows, was coordinating the revolution. His earpiece buzzed with an encrypted signal, a technology the Zephyron had never bothered to monitor because they assumed humans were too primitive to develop anything they had not been taught. Torres smiled at the irony as he made his way to a storage facility on the edge of the port. Inside, Dr. Elena Vasquez was waiting, surrounded by equipment that officially did not exist. Elena had been a quantum physicist before the occupation. Now she was officially a data entry clerk for the Zephyron administration. In reality, she was the architect of humanity's silent revolution. "Tell me something good." "Elena," Torres said, securing the door behind him and activating 3 different jamming devices hidden throughout the room. Elena looked up from her work, her eyes bright with excitement, despite the exhaustion evident in her face. "David, we did it. We actually did it." She pulled up a holographic display that flickered to life above her workstation. The image showed complex mathematical equations and energy signatures that Torres had learned to recognize over the past 8 years. "This is a Zephyron power core," Elena explained, highlighting part of the display. "They use it in everything from their ships to their cities. It is incredibly efficient, drawing energy from quantum vacuum fluctuations. They have used this same basic design for 62,000 years. Torres leaned forward, and it has a fundamental flaw that they have never noticed because they have never had to. Elena's smile widened. The Zephyron do not innovate anymore, David. They have not had to for thousands of years. They just refine and optimize old technology. But we have been studying their systems with fresh eyes, and we found something they missed. She manipulated the display, zooming in on a specific component. This quantum stabilizer maintains the power flow. It is perfectly balanced under normal conditions. But if you introduce a cascading harmonic resonance at a specific frequency, the entire system destabilizes. Not explosively, but it shuts down completely. And because all their technology is based on the same fundamental principles, the effect propagates through their entire network. Torres felt his heart race. "You are telling me we can disable their technology?" "All of it," Elena confirmed. "Their ships, their weapons, their planetary shields, their communication systems. Everything they have brought to Earth runs on variations of the same core technology. We have tested it on salvaged components. It works every single time." "How long have you known this?" "We confirmed it 3 days ago," Elena said. "But David, this is just one piece. We needed to be sure about everything before we brought it to you." Asterisk, before Torres could respond, another figure emerged from the shadows. Marcus Webb had once been Earth's youngest admiral before the Zephyron forced him into early retirement. Now he ran a civilian transport company, which gave him access to movement records and shipping schedules across the entire solar system. "The Zephyron fleet positions are predictable," Marcus said without preamble, projecting another holographic display. "They rotate their ships on a precise schedule. Every 12 days, there is a 6-hour window when their orbital coverage of Earth has minimal overlap. They have done this for 8 years without variation, because nothing has ever challenged them. Torres studied the display. 6 hours is not much time. It is enough, said a new voice. Isabella Reeves stepped into the light, her presence commanding despite her official role as an agricultural coordinator. Before the occupation, she had been Director of Global Intelligence. The Zephyron had no idea that Earth's spy networks had never truly disbanded, just gone deeper underground. We have operatives in every major Zephyron facility on Earth and Mars, Isabella continued. We have infiltrated their administrative systems, their supply chains, their communication networks. They think we are obedient workers. They have no idea we have been mapping every detail of their occupation for 8 years. She activated her own display, showing a network of contacts and resources that spanned the solar system. When INA triggers the harmonic pulse, we will have approximately 6 hours before the Zephyron can restore their systems. In that time, we need to do 3 things. First, secure all Zephyron personnel on Earth without casualties. Second, take control of their orbital facilities. Third, disable their fleet before they can retreat or call for reinforcements. That is impossible, Torres said flatly. We have no military, no warships, no weapons that can threaten Zephyron vessels. Not true, Marcus interjected. We have something better. We have 800 Zephyron ships sitting in our orbit, completely dependent on human technicians for maintenance and repair. Torres stared at him. You have people on those ships? We have people everywhere, Isabella said. The Zephyron see human workers as invisible. We fix their machines, clean their facilities, deliver their supplies. They have never considered that we might be doing more than that. Every Zephyron vessel in Earth orbit has at least a dozen human technicians aboard at any given time. Technicians who know every system, every vulnerability, and every way to take control of a ship from the inside. Asterisk. Torres felt the pieces clicking into place. You are planning a simultaneous takeover of the entire fleet, not just the fleet, Elena added. Every Zephyron facility in the solar system. Every outpost, every station, every administrative center. All at once, in the 6-hour window when their technology is dead and they are blind. And after? Torres asked. When they come back. When the Empire sends more ships? Then we negotiate from a position of strength, Isabella said. With their fleet in our hands and proof that we can disable their technology at will, we become a threat they cannot ignore. Not children to be managed, but equals to be respected. Or enemies to be destroyed, Torres countered. Perhaps, Marcus admitted. But consider what we have learned about the Zephyron over these 8 years. They have maintained their empire through overwhelming technological superiority and the high assumption that no one can challenge them. They have not fought a real war in thousands of years. Their tactics are outdated, their response protocols are rigid, and their commanders have never faced an enemy that refuses to play by their rules. They have grown soft. Elena added, arrogant. They believe their technology makes them invincible. When we show them, it does not. When we prove that we can match them and exceed them, they will have to reconsider everything they think they know about humanity. Torres walked to the window, looking out at the Zephyron ships gleaming in orbit. 8 years ago, those ships had represented an impossible power. Now they were about to become humanity's greatest weapon, turned against their former masters. How many people know about this? He asked. 30-7 in the core leadership. Isabella replied. Another 8,000 in operational roles. All carefully vetted, all absolutely committed. We have been building this network since the day we knelt before Emperor Krithx. And everyone is ready? They have been ready for years, Marcus said. Every person who was forced to bow. Every scientist who saw their work dismissed as primitive. Every parent who watched their children taught that humans were inferior. They are all ready to prove the Zephyron wrong. Torres turned back to face them. When? 72 hours, Isabella said. The next optimal window. Everything is in place. We just need your authorization to proceed. Torres looked at each of them in turn. These were not soldiers anymore. They were a maintenance supervisor, a data clerk, a transport manager, and an agricultural coordinator. But beneath those humble titles were some of the finest minds and strongest wills humanity had ever produced. The Zephron had tried to break them, to reduce them, to make them accept permanent inferiority. Instead, they had forged them into something dangerous. 8 years ago, I knelt before an emperor who called us children, Torres said quietly. I swore that day would not stand. I swore humanity would rise again. His voice grew stronger. Authorize the operation. In 72 hours, we show the Zephron what human children can do. The countdown began. Across Earth, Mars, and dozens of orbital stations, 8,000 humans prepared for the most coordinated operation in history. They worked their assigned jobs, smiled at their Zephron overseers, and waited for the signal. Elena and her team made final preparations on the harmonic pulse generators, devices they had built from scavenged parts and hidden in plain sight as waste recycling equipment. Marcus coordinated the teams aboard the Zephron fleet, going over every step of the takeover procedures. Isabella verified the readiness of each cell in her network, ensuring that not a single Zephron facility would be left unsecured. Torres spent those 72 hours visiting key sites, speaking with team leaders, and ensuring everyone understood both the plan and the risks. He saw the determination in their eyes, the barely contained excitement. These were people who had been humiliated and oppressed for 8 years. Now they were hours away from their moment of vindication. On the final night, Torres stood once more at the new Geneva spaceport, watching the Zephron ships pass overhead. His communicator buzzed with status updates from across the solar system. All teams were in position. All equipment was ready. They were waiting only for his final command. He thought about Emperor Krithax, undoubtedly comfortable in his palace on the Zephron homeworld, confident that Earth remained a docile protectorate. The Emperor had no idea that his entire fleet was about to be seized by the primitive children he had mocked. He had no idea that his perfect technology was about to be turned against him. He had no idea that his empire's greatest weakness was the very arrogance that had made it strong. Torres activated his communicator, speaking on the encrypted channel that reached every team simultaneously. This is Torres. All units, this is authorization code Prometheus. Execute in 5 minutes. Across the solar system, thousands of humans began moving. Maintenance crews accessed control panels they had been studying for years. Technicians activated equipment they had carefully modified. Infiltration teams moved into position at every critical facility. Torres watched the countdown on his display. 5 minutes. 4, 3, 2, 1. Elena activated the harmonic pulse generators. The effect was invisible to the human eye, but every Zephron device in the solar system suddenly went dark. The lights in their ships flickered and died. Their weapon systems shut down. Their communication networks went silent. Their mighty fleet, the pride of an empire that had ruled for 120,000 years, became nothing more than expensive debris floating in orbit. For 6.3 seconds, nothing seemed to happen. Then Torres's communicator exploded with status updates. Team 7 has secured the Mars Command Center. No Zephron casualties. Orbital Station 3 under our control. All Zephron personnel contained in their quarters. Fleet Section Alpha. Ships 1 through 50 secured. Zephron crews cooperating. The reports flooded in faster than Torres could process them. Every team executing perfectly. Every facility being secured. Every Zephron ship being taken without firing a shot. Within 30 minutes, it was over. 800 Zephron warships, 17 orbital stations, 23 planetary facilities, and over 4,000 Zephron personnel were under human control. Not a single shot had been fired. Not a single casualty on either side. Torres allowed himself a moment of satisfaction before getting back to work. This was just the beginning. The easy part was done. Now came the difficult task of making the Zephron understand what had happened. Emperor Krithax received the emergency transmission 6 hours after the takeover. His 6 eyes widened as he listened to the report from his fleet commander, who was speaking from what had been his flagship, but was now a prison. "Impossible," Krithax said flatly. "Humans do not have the technology to disable our systems. They do not have the coordination to execute such an operation. They do not have the audacity to even attempt it. And yet, Your Majesty," the commander said carefully, "they have done all 3. Our entire fleet is in their hands. All of our personnel in the Sol system are secured, and they are requesting that you come to Earth personally to negotiate." "Negotiate?" Krithax laughed, though it sounded forced. "They are children playing at rebellion. Send the Second Fleet immediately. We will remind them why the Zephron Empire has stood for 120,000 years." The commander hesitated. "Your Majesty, they have sent a demonstration. They have asked that you watch it." A holographic display activated, showing one of the Zephron's newest battle cruisers, the Crown of Unity. Krithax watched as the ship's systems activated under human control, as it maneuvered with precision that matched any Zephron pilot, as its weapons came online and targeted a derelict asteroid with perfect accuracy. Then the image switched to a different view, showing a human woman Krithax recognized as the data clerk from the Occupation Administration. She was speaking directly to the camera, and the translator rendered her words clearly. "Emperor Krithax, this is Dr. Elena Vasquez. What you just saw was your most advanced warship operating under complete human control. We know every system, every weakness, every secret of your technology." She paused, letting that sink in. "We also know how to disable all of it permanently if we choose. Your fleet is not just captured, Your Majesty. It is obsolete. The image showed schematics, detailed technical breakdowns of Zephron systems with annotations highlighting vulnerabilities that Krithax himself had never considered. "You called us children," Helena continued. "You said we needed 3,000 years of guidance before we could stand as equals." She smiled, and it was not a kind smile. "We learned everything we needed in 8 years. Not because you taught us, but because we studied you. While you looked down on us, we looked through you." The hologram showed Torres now, standing on the bridge of the Zephron flagship. "Emperor Krithax, humanity offers you a choice. Come to Earth. Negotiate with us as equals. Acknowledge that you underestimated us and work with us to establish a genuine partnership. Or," Krithax found himself asking the empty air dot as if hearing him. Torres continued, "Or we demonstrate to every species in your empire exactly how vulnerable the mighty Zephron really are. We will show them that your 120,000 years of dominance rest on technology that can be defeated by a species you dismissed as primitive. We will show them that the Emperor has no clothes." The transmission ended. Krithax stood in silence, his 6 eyes staring at the blank space where the hologram had been. Asterisk. His advisors waited nervously. Finally, one spoke. "Your Majesty, what are your orders?" Krithax thought about the 33 species his empire had uplifted. He thought about the thousands of worlds that obeyed Zephron authority. He thought about the careful balance of fear and respect that maintained order across the galaxy. If word spread that humans had defeated the Zephron, that balance would shatter. Rebellions would ignite on 100 worlds. The empire that had stood for 120,000 years would crumble. But if he negotiated, if he acknowledged humans as equals, He would be admitting that the Zephyron were not as superior as they had always claimed. Krithax realized with bitter clarity that he had no good options. The humans had given him a choice between humiliation and destruction. He had done the same to them 8 years ago, never imagining the same choice would be turned back on him. "Prepare my ship," he said quietly. "I will go to Earth." 3 days later, Emperor Krithax's personal vessel approached Earth orbit. This time there was no fleet accompanying him, just his ship and a small escort. The humans had returned control of most of the captured fleet, keeping only enough vessels to make their point clear. They could have kept it all, but they had chosen to show mercy. The Emperor found that more frightening than if they had kept every ship. Torres met him at the same docking bay where they had first encountered each other. But this time, Torres did not kneel. He stood tall, flanked by Elena, Marcus, and Isabella, all wearing new uniforms that bore no resemblance to the humble clothes they had worn during the occupation. Emperor Krithax. Torres said, with a slight nod of respect, but nothing more, "Welcome to Earth." Krithax looked at the humans before him, really looked at them for the first time. He saw the intelligence in their eyes, the confidence in their bearing, the strength that he had dismissed as childish enthusiasm. He had been so certain of his superiority that he had never considered they might be capable of growth. He had assumed that young meant weak, that primitive meant stupid, that submission meant acceptance. He had been wrong about all of it. "You have made your point." "Commander Torres," Krithax said finally, "humanity is more capable than I judged. We are not here for your approval," Elena said sharply. "We are here to establish terms for peaceful coexistence." Krithax's eyes shifted to her. "You could destroy my fleet. You could expose our weaknesses to the entire galaxy. Why offer peace?" "Because that is what actual civilization looks like," Isabella answered. "Not domination, not forced submission, but mutual respect and cooperation between equals." Marcus stepped forward with a datapad. "We have drafted a treaty. Earth and its colonies become an independent member of the galactic community. The Zephyron Empire acknowledges humanity as a sovereign species. In exchange, we will not share the technical specifications of your vulnerabilities, and we will return all captured assets. And if I refuse?" Krithax asked, though he already knew the answer. "Then we release everything to every species you have ever subjugated." Torres said flatly, "We will arm your enemies with the knowledge to defeat you. The choice is yours, Your Majesty, just as you gave us a choice 8 years ago." Krithax stood silent for a long moment, feeling the weight of 120,000 years of history pressing down on him. His empire had been built on the assumption of unassailable superiority. That assumption had just been shattered by a species less than 10,000 years old. He thought about fighting, about refusing, about trying to maintain the old order. But he knew it was already too late. The humans had proven their point. More importantly, they had proven it to themselves. They would never kneel again. "I accept your terms," Krithax said, and the words felt like ash in his mouth. Torres extended his hand in the human gesture of agreement. "Then let us begin a new relationship, Your Majesty. Not as master and servant, but as partners." Krithax looked at the extended hand. 8 years ago, he had forced these humans to kneel. Now he was being asked to shake hands as an equal. The reversal was complete. He took Torres's hand. As they shook, Krithax realized that this moment would be studied in Zephyron history for thousands of years. The day the Empire learned that age did not guarantee wisdom, that technology did not guarantee invincibility, and that underestimating your opponents was the fastest path to defeat. The humans had taught the Zephyron a lesson that 120,000 years of dominance had made them forget. Never, ever, assume you know everything. Later, as Krithax's ship departed Earth, Torres watched from the observation deck. Elena joined him, looking out at the stars. "Do you think he learned anything?" she asked. Torres smiled. "I think he learned that humanity is done being underestimated. And I think every species in the galaxy is about to learn the same lesson. The age of submission was over. The age of equality had begun. And humanity had earned its place among the stars, not through submission or warfare, but through ingenuity, determination, and the courage to stand up when everyone else said to kneel. Emperor Krithax had dared to humiliate humanity. Now his throne lay not in ruins, but something perhaps worse, diminished forever by the realization that his empire's power had always been more fragile than he believed. And across the galaxy, other species heard the story and began to wonder, if the humans could do it, why not us? The End. Asterisk.